Okay, that should take care of it. Let me know. Why is that doing that? Let me know now if you can hear me. No, it's not on YouTube either. Yeah, for some reason when I open OBS, it makes me reset all of my settings, and I shouldn't have to do that. I didn't used to have to do that, so I don't know if this happened during its most recent upgrade or what. So you should be able to, there we go. Okay, it usually takes a minute, so I just kill time until I killed, oh, wow, that's really loud. How's that? Is that good? Or is that too soft? Because before it was peeking out in the reds, it was over 12. So let me know if that sounds better. Judy can hear me. There we go, Fiona. The sound cut out with the music stopped. Okay. Yeah, so that should have fixed it. Hey, Carrie Ann, Fiona, Amy, Joanne, Judy, Carmen, Lisa, Amber, Amy, Joanne, I said that, right? Okay. Let me check this over here. Not working. So heck with that. Alrighty. So yeah, because it was peeking out. Let me just make sure that it's not. I glanced down. It was like a solid red bar on the microphone, and that's too loud. That's when it gets really super distorted. So this should be better. So anyway, I shall start again. Dystopia. And now I'm down to 5 minutes. So I can't get good, Lisa. Thank you. I can't get the whole story in a short amount of time, but. I won't get into the grids, because there's an Eastern United States grid, a Western United States grid, a Texas grid, which covers most of Texas and some of Oklahoma, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, our governor went to Washington, didn't go to, he petitioned like a 4-page letter detailing why we need to produce extra energy because we have this storm coming this weekend. So this is, a couple weeks ago. And DC said, no, because of our green energy bill now that we have, that you can't do that. So we went into the storm with not enough backup power. And not only that, it got to record, we fell below zero. I have lived here since 1997, and I don't even remember the temperatures going into single digits. I guess they have a couple of times, but never, oh my gosh, it has never gotten below zero, especially for that many days in a row. And normally in North Texas, we'll get a cold day, or maybe we'll get a snow, and boy, you better get out there and enjoy that snow that day, because when the sun comes out, it'll melt, or maybe it'll last a couple of days. Never like this. So yeah. Oh, good. Hey, Kathy. So yeah, I grew up in Michigan. Speaking of Kathy, who's in Michigan. So I grew up in Michigan, so I'm no stranger to cold, but look at it this way. We don't get snow in Texas. Ergo, we don't have snow plows. We don't have salt trucks. They don't do salt here anyway. They do sand. We don't have, I think the entire state may have 40 sand trucks, because it just doesn't happen here. Not only that, now think about your frost line. So we put our water pipes below our frost line. So what happens when it gets so ungodly cold that it hasn't been this cold here before? And it stays this cold for a couple of weeks, or week and a half, however long it was. It seemed like a month. It seemed like years. So then now we've got problems with our water pipes and our water mains and the pipes in our walls. Our homes are made for hot temperatures, not for cold temperatures. So, people are like, I grew up in Michigan. People are like, yeah, welcome to our life. I'm sorry. It's a totally different situation here. So I know people in the north that still don't have air conditioning. So, okay, let's say it turns 110 there for a few weeks. What are you going to do if that's not how your homes are set up? And it's even worse, because 110 temperatures are not going to bust your water pipes. You may have rolling blackouts, but you're not going to freeze to death. You're not going to be breaking up furniture. We had furniture broken up and ready to burn. Well, I don't need that chair anymore, but got to keep the house cold. We got 2 grandbabies. We've got, everybody came to the house, and we stayed there. So we were fortunate that, and I know is Lisa here this morning? I know Lisa said that her house was like, Y2K Central. Shouldn't say that, but that's kind of how I look at it. It's like, y'all come, because we had 10 acres and, but we could dip buckets into the pool, because you got pool water. So it's purified, sort of. It's like overtreated. But, but at least we could take buckets of pool water, boil it up, and use it to wash dishes. We could take buckets of pool water and put it in our toilet tanks to flush, because we didn't, until last night at 6:30 p.m., we didn't have water. So, and our our plumber is sleeping 4 to 6 hours at night and working his tail off to try to get around to everybody whose lines were broken. So it was, I wish I'd had more time. I should have logged on earlier and turned my microphone on, or actually hooked up my microphone, because it was horrible. Yeah, the wells, ours busted. Thank God. We thought the main busted on the way from the pump house to our main house, and apparently it did not, because it's currently holding water pressure. So really, really happy about that. But it was bad. But in bad times, you make it fun. So we had the rolling blackouts, and they started to become predictable. And then all of a sudden they weren't. So, you're sitting there in the dark with candles, which is really, really cool. And then the power kicks back up, and as soon as the power kicks in, everybody jumps up and goes and does. Because when power is on, then you have to all right, what circuit breakers popped, so go reset those. Let's get out there and boil some water, quick, let's throw some, the food. You don't have time, because the power was only on for 30 minutes. So you don't even have time to preheat an oven, to cook something. So, boiling water, well, that takes a few minutes. So there's all these things you have to figure out how to use your 30 minutes of electricity really efficiently. And then it's gone for an hour or two. And then you're cold again, which thankfully we had a wood burning stove. But good luck finding firewood. But then again, I don't know if you saw the story that I did. You know what? I'm going to talk about this again at the end. But just really quickly, there's a local man who has a firewood business. This is how he feeds his family, is selling firewood. And he posted on the internet and different various places, gave his address and said, if you need firewood, come and get it. It's free. Keep your family warm and safe. Tom Thumb was handing out bottles of water. There was like packets, Of course, they put some limits on it. Because remember when COVID started, there was like a limit, how much toilet paper you could get. Nobody around here was worried about toilet paper. We don't even have toilets that worked. So, we were just worried about feeding our families and staying warm. And I'm telling you, that first shower I took, because... and then I'll tell you about the electrical grid and how here at the office, we have wholesale electricity, which went from a penny or less. We paid 2 to 3 cents a kilowatt hour to $9 a kilowatt hour. We spent over $1,000 here at the office, and we had almost everything shut off. It was nuts. And our bill is normally $50 a month here. And it was over $1,000 last week. So, yeah. Food spoilage. Yeah. Well, and the thing is when you live in the country and your freezer and you just can't take your stuff and put it outside. You live in the country. We have dogs. We have cats. We have, there's animals that are hungry because they've never seen this kind of cold before and they're looking for food. So we couldn't even take our food outside. So it was a learning experience. But anyway, all right. So I want you to, I'm very excited about this interview. My editor, that's weird. I forgot that, said it's one of the best interviews so far as a guy, so it's a little bit different for him. Yeah, I'll talk about that in a minute, Fiona. Because our governor is not happy. So anyway, I'm very excited to share this interview with Rochelle Marie. She is from Australia, so get ready, your ear ready for a little bit of a different accent, but she's ready to chat. So let's talk to Rochelle Marie. Well, hello and welcome to Coffee with Colleen. We have a very special guest with us today, and she really worked around our schedule because she's in Australia, like a lot of our friends that we've had here before. But she is really working out her time zone to be with us today. So I want to thank you for that. But let me introduce you to our guest. Her name is Rochelle Marie, and she worked her way from entry-level roles into leadership positions twice after taking a 12-year gap to raise children. So a lot of us are familiar with that. But she was not pretending to be somebody she's not, which is important. After one too many stories from career moms who were literally vomiting on their way to work, and that broke my heart when I read that, because I know people like that too. A lot of times due to toxic managers, she decided enough was enough, and she used her entrepreneurial spirit and now empowers and inspires women to get their leadership role where they can make a difference. So I appreciate you. Rochelle and I have been talking a lot. Now, you go by both, like Rochelle Marie, or do you just go by Rochelle?
No, just Rochelle. Rochelle. Marie okay. Was like a simplification of surnames are too difficult. And so,
yes. Yeah. I was like, how do I pronounce this one? Oh, good. She just goes by Rochelle Marie.
Yeah, Rochelle's fine.
That's good. But thanks for being here. And thank you for taking this important topic on in your life. Because I know so many women, and we were talking and we were chatting pre-show, so many women who either are done raising their children and they've had that gap and they think life's over. I can't get a job. I can't go back to work. Or maybe they get a job just working at some local place. Or if they try to get back into business, they run into all these hurdles. And like, what you had said where the women were vomiting and just on their way to work because it's like, oh, I need this job, or I want this job, or I don't want to be sitting home, but I've got to deal with toxic relationships in the workplace.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there are things you can do with toxic relationships, which we've spoken about on the show before. But unfortunately, if you're either married to them, they're in your family, or they're your boss, there's too many limits on what you can do. So I'm not quite sure where to start. There's so many places that we can start with this, but let's just talk about leadership in general. So you said that women should take the lead to make a difference. I mean, the easy thing is, how do you do that? But where does that begin? Does that begin like before you get the job? Does that start in the workplace? Where does that start?
Yeah, I think, first of all, thank you for having me on today. I really appreciate it. And I'm more than happy to get up early for you. So
thank you.
And I have had coffee, so I'm not going to fall asleep as we talk, which is always helpful.
That's good.
So leadership, I think it starts with mums. It starts with being a mum. We're natural leaders when we're mothers. And so I think that's one of the reasons we make such good leaders later on in life. And that's not to say that not having children means you can't be a good leader, but it does give you that special something to bring with you. So I think that's where it starts. And then from there, the one thing that I find a lot with my clients, with career mums, is that step where we've, taken time out, had our children, we tend to lose a little bit of ourselves. There's just this little piece that kind of splits off. We get a new piece with the title of mum, but there's a little bit of confidence that when we step back into our careers, it's dipped away, and we need to work out a way to reclaim that and step into that leadership piece of us that we have naturally. And then we get to make a difference. And for me, there's so many ways that as leaders, we get to make a difference. One is ourselves. We get to become the best version of ourselves, which I think, we all want to be. We get to role model for our children, how it is to be a woman in this century, and lead the way for our kids. And then we get to make a difference for these women and men that are struggling with going to work every day because the managers that they're turning out for have no time for them, or worse. And like you said, you've dealt with toxic people. And unfortunately, there's still too many of them. And so what I want women to know is that they have the power to make a difference to our world by stepping up and being leaders.
I totally agree. Let me back up to the confidence issue, because I see that in a lot of my clients as well. So what do you think it is about becoming a mother or being at home, or what is it that chips away at, because the same thing happened to me. What is it, do you think, that chips away at our confidence? Is it the outside world? Is it our own perceptions? Is it someone within our family? Where does that lack of confidence, how does that start chipping away? Where does that happen?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think it's all of the above. So we step out generally for some period of time. It might be 6 months. It might be like me, 12 years. It might be, I've had, friends and colleagues that have been out for 20 years. So it differs. And just stepping out of that environment, when you step back in, it feels like a new world. It feels like, and particularly the longer you're out, the more things have changed. And we know how fast technology changes things, but it's not just technology, it's culture. And, other people have progressed in that time in their careers and have become different people as well. And so you're stepping back into something that feels quite alien, I think. And so that can definitely sort of knock you about a little bit and wonder who you are now and how you fit in this space. I also think just having children, our focus shifts. And when I was younger, I was on a career track and I knew I had this, and I became a leader at quite a young age. At 23, I was in charge of 8 people. And I knew where I was heading. And then I had my first child, who I love and adore. And all of a sudden I wasn't quite so sure anymore, because, she was my world for a time until I had my son. Of course, I love them equally now. And so that shift in focus, I think, starts to make you wonder, am I cut out for this? Like, should I be doing this? I think becoming a mum brings with it the guilt of, all of the shoulds. Should I be staying at home? Should I be back in my career? It doesn't matter what way you go, you're going to feel guilty. So I've always been a strong proponent of going with what feels right for you, because people are going to judge you no matter what, and you're going to feel guilty no matter what. So do the best thing for you.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. And I think that when I remember giving up my career, and I was pretty much at the top of my industry, and I was a network news anchor. So at 23 years old, and then, I have my first child when I'm 30, and I didn't think I was going to give it all up,
No.
but I ended up giving it all up to be a stay-at-home mom.
Mm.
And I remember my husband was an executive at IBM. And I remember going to a Christmas party, and I'd only been home for probably 18 months. I think our son was 18 months old at the time. And one of the female executive said to me, how could you give up yourself and be a stay-at-home mom? And what do you do all day? I mean, I would be so bored. I'm just such an intellectual. I just think my skills would be wasted at home. So there was some of that from the outside.
Absolutely.
But I was already feeling it on the inside. So it didn't help me at all,
No.
So I think I agree with you. I think it comes from so many different angles. And then if we hear it from the outside and it starts maybe a little kind of something that's been niggling in the back of our head, and we were thinking it, and then somebody from the outside says it, it just confirms, oh my gosh, I'm not valuable. I have lost my edge. And whatnot. So, but being a mom, what type of leadership abilities, or what type of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, they're not resume type items, but they can be put on our resume. What skills do we develop as a mom that we can take back into the workforce?
Oh my goodness, so many, so many skills as a mum. So, like, to me, the most obvious one is negotiation skills, particularly once you've got 2 children, but even with one, right? Your entire life is negotiating with a toddler. If you can negotiate with a toddler to eat their vegetables, you can negotiate with anybody.
I totally agree.
I think that, and we don't take that on, we don't embody that, but that's a massive trait that a lot of people don't have and don't do well. So I definitely think that's something we can put on our resume. One of the other ones, I think, for me, and I have to admit I'm still learning this, but is patience.
Mm-hmm.
So again, dealing with children, you can't be impatient. You can't say, tie your shoelaces right now. I don't care if you've never done it before. We've got to get somewhere. So you need to learn, and this is a great leadership skill, that you can give somebody a task and give them the space to learn it and not hurry them through it. And it's okay to show them more than once. Different people learn at different rates and learn in different ways. And as a leader, you need to recognize that and recognize that not everybody's where you are. We're not born with being able to tie shoelaces. And staff don't come into a job knowing all of the parts of the job. So I think, as a mum and as a leader, that's something that you really get to embody and bring in and help your staff without making them feel stupid in the process. So
yeah, I love the whole idea of negotiation. I have a 2-year-old grandson, and it's like, would you like this for breakfast or this for breakfast? And you give them 2 positive options, because it doesn't really matter which one you choose. I'm trying to teach my daughters how to, right? These are your 2 positive options. You can either have this or this. And he's 2 years old and he says, or chocolate. Like, that's option C. We had A and B. We do not have an option C here, so you're right. If you can negotiate successfully with a toddler who doesn't have to worry about, looking good at work or whatever, right? If you can, I never even thought about that, but that is a valuable skill.
It is.
That you really do learn. So what about being a mom? Because you said in your notes that you can be a difference in the workplace. So what is it that they need to make a difference in?
To me, it is that bringing the empathy and the compassion into the workplace. Traditionally, leaders have been seen as good if they have male traits, and that's starting to change. I think particularly the last year, we've seen that quite prominent in the media, that maybe those male traits aren't so good after all in leaders, and the idea of compassion, empathy, collaboration, bringing people with you, those kind of traits that are more stereotypically feminine, they are what make a difference in our workplace. And so my ideal world is where men and women have masculine and feminine traits that they are more than happy to show, and make our work lives happy for everybody. Like it should be a place of joy. Yes, we need to be productive. Yes, we need to get things done. And that's definitely a masculine trait, is the drive and ambition and motivation to get things done. But we're there for such a long part of our day. We should be having fun as well. We want to go to work. We don't want to, have the brakes on and be anxious and depressed and have the Monday blues that so many people get. We should be thinking Sunday night, okay, work tomorrow. What have I got on? These are my top 3 things. Can't wait.
Yeah. Can you give an example of, because I know you work with women that, to help them bridge this gap and to polish their skills. I don't know if you work with resumes or what else do you do, but can you give an example of a woman that her story that you've worked with, without giving her name or anything, so that we can better understand that transition and how that works practically for her?
Yeah. So one of my clients, I think as women, we quite often can see that we will make good leaders. And so it's not this idea of, I don't think I'm good enough to be a leader. I don't think that's what comes into it. And so with one of my clients, it was definitely more around, I just don't have the confidence. I'm not confident in me. I know I'm going to make a better leader than my leader is, because, she's not doing so good. So I know I can do better than that. I'm just not confident in stepping up into that. And then I'm not sure what I'm going to do when I'm there. What if I don't do it good enough? And I think we put a lot of expectations on ourselves to be perfect the minute we step into a new role, which clearly is not how it's meant to be. So what we worked on first, and this is with all my clients, we really focus on that inner piece of confidence and why are you wanting to do this in the first place, and getting real clarity over who you are as a woman and as a mother and as a work person and as a leader. Who are you? What are your strengths? What do you value? What are you going to bring to the workplace when you know your whole package? And just that clarity alone is really powerful. And working on that confidence piece with that clarity really allows you to step into the workplace as almost a different person. And she actually has been at Christmas time, this particular client went out with old work colleagues. She's now in a new role. And she went out with old work colleagues and they were like, who are you? You've changed. And she's like, yeah, I have. And she really owned that. And, that was really exciting to her. So definitely that inner piece is a big part of stepping into your leadership and starting to make a difference. We spent at least probably half of our time working on that, working who you are as a leader, and then being clear on, from there we start to look at some of the leadership skills that you might want to embody and bring them into the workplace as well. Mm-hmm. Definitely around that confidence piece. And I think one of the pieces that we work on in there is our mindset and how we can use our mindset to become really strong leaders. And by strong leaders, I don't mean authoritarian, you must do this and, do as I say, not as I do, which is what we're often used to. But being able to, one of the things that we work on and I worked on with her was the idea of we get to choose how we interpret events happening around us. And so if you're dealing with a difficult boss, which unfortunately too many of us are, often we then start coming up with preconceived ideas of how they are treating us. And they might say something inane, but our history with them has taught us something and our brain will immediately go to, oh, she's attacking me. That's terrible. And we start to become defensive and react in the same kind of way, putting walls up and, bouncing off them. What we can choose to do instead is take a breath, and I teach this, is just, when you're feeling like you're being attacked or, something's not serving you, something's been said or done that isn't serving you, stop and take a breath and then choose a different interpretation. It doesn't matter what the different interpretation is, just change the interpretation. And all of a sudden you've got doubt as to what that initial interpretation that sort of flooded your brain. You can start thinking, oh, okay, that's just me. That's not reality. And so I can choose to respond differently in this situation because I don't know exactly what the right interpretation is. So I can make the interpretation whatever I choose to. And that for her, for this particular client with a boss that's very frustrating to work with, has changed her work day. And so just the other day, she said, I turn up now and I'm having fun. And that is an entirely different space from where she was originally. So
yeah, as opposed to getting sick on the way to work on Monday morning. Yeah. Or I had a friend of mine that was every Sunday night, she hated her job so much that Sundays around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, she started to get physically ill. Yeah. Just that early in the day, starting to think about the fact that she had to go to work the following morning. Yeah. Yeah. And it's just so sad. Yeah. So when you're working with somebody, so what you're doing is extremely valuable, and thank you for doing that. And I do know make sure to check in the show notes. We have a link that Rochelle is giving our listeners a complimentary confidence course, a little mini course. So we'll have that link in the show notes. And that's good for anybody. I mean, we all can, I'm sure I'm going to do it. I'm sure we can all, help grow in confidence because there's always something that's niggling in the back of our head that we've got to deal with. Yeah. So what do you find with the women that you're working with? If there's something consistently that surprises them that they're like, oh my goodness, like, or aha, I had no idea. And that they can, about their background or their situation, or even the things that you're teaching them, that they have that aha moment.
I definitely think that piece around being able to choose your response and your interpretation. That's a big aha moment for a lot of my clients. And also within that sort of that teaching space, that module, we look at how our egos often get in the way of our interpretations. And I think that can be really big because we often don't want to see that it's us. It's always somebody else, right? When we're in those situations, and I'm not saying that the other person isn't at, fault. Everybody can definitely do with improving. And the reason I got into this is because people can do with improving in their leadership. But what I've learned is that I am far more responsible for how I'm feeling on any given day than I originally thought I was. And so when we start talking about, how are you letting your ego get in the way of things here? How are you while we lack confidence, we have a good ego at the same time, which sort of seems like a conundrum. But we definitely see ourselves as the hero in most situations. That's just naturally how we see ourselves. And when we're feeling frustrated or not heard or dismissed often, then it's definitely somebody else's fault and they need to change, and I'm why can't they see how good I am, sort of thing. And so I think we do a bit of reflection on where is our ego interrupting our days and how do we let go of some of it so that we can look at those interpretations and we can look at how we're responding to things from our ego. So I think, those often take a while to work through that ego space, because it's a little bit confronting to think that, oh, maybe I do have a little bit more to do with this than I was originally thinking. Takes a while.
Well, and my husband was a former professional athlete and he played basketball. And one of the things that he said to me early on, because he knew his professional career wouldn't last that long, because he just because of his skill level and whatnot. But so he always did really well in school because he wanted to graduate with a good degree so he could get a job as soon as he was done playing professional sports. So then he goes on to be an executive at IBM. But one of the things he told me, he always uses sports references, but he said that in basketball, you can throw what you think is the most perfect pass, but if your teammate doesn't catch it, it wasn't a good pass. So you have to take personal responsibility for that. So if what you're saying or doing isn't effective, you may think you're perfect and doing it right, but if it's not helping the team, or it's not helping your family, or it's not helping the other, your partner, your marriage partner, or the person you're in a relationship with, then you need to take a portion of that responsibility and change things. So I see this as that's a life skill right there, is taking personal responsibility and getting your ego out of the way and saying, okay, what's our goal? Our end goal here is to have this, a good marriage, a good communication, a good teamwork, or what was our end goal, and how can I facilitate that better by changing my own behavior? So I think that's a life skill right there that everybody, whether they're going back into the workforce or not, can benefit from.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And most of what I teach is life skills, because, that's what makes good leaders, is good life skills. It definitely, and just on that basketball, like that just reminded me of the communication part of leadership as well, which is huge. And the exact same thing. If you're saying something, that's not communication. That's just you saying something. How the other person interprets it, that's communication, and that is your responsibility. And so, exactly the same with the basketball pass. And I think I see it as it's everybody's 100% responsibility.
Right.
It's not, you don't get to be in a relationship and have 50% of the responsibility for the relationship. You have 100% of the responsibility. Now, if the other person has 0%, okay, maybe you need to look at, is this the right relationship?
You need to chat.
But it is, and it's a hard thing. It's a hard lesson to learn, I think. And again, takes some time, but we need to become 100% responsible for our lives.
Mm-hmm. So how can women, going back into the workforce, right? Shifting gears real quick because I just saw our time and we're running edge on the time here. How can women learn to be visible in the right ways?
Yeah. So one of the things we do as women, particularly as mums, and I love it and I don't love it at the same time, is we tend to mother, right, at work. And I'm guilty of that, especially if your boss is younger than you. It's a tricky situation where we start to mother our bosses, and that's not what you want to be doing.
That's the wrong way.
We get roped into or volunteer to do the mothering type things. So we put the morning teas on, we bring the scones, we throw the birthday parties and morning teas, and we do the caring at work. And while that is a beautiful thing to do, and if you're not looking to get into leadership, if you're not on a career path, then all of those things are wonderful. And I think I would love if men were doing the exact same thing, and there's no reason they can't. So, if you're one of those women that loves to do that and it, brings you joy, rope a man in to do it with you so that they start learning, that this is not just a woman thing. This is a work thing. This is a caring thing. But if you're on the leadership track, if you're wanting to progress in your career, then you really need to think twice about whether that's how you want to be seen. Because traditionally, the motherhood role is the caring role, but not necessarily in our culture, at least the leader role. And so we need to start being a little bit more strategic about how we're seen and how we become visible. And I think the best way for me, and there's many ways that I go into, but me personally, the best way I like to become visible is connecting with people on a one-on-one basis. And it sort of doesn't sound all that visible, but if you build your network up on a one-to-one basis with people across your organization, not in your little silo, which we often, we get stuck in our little bubbles and in our little silos and we don't look outside of it. But if you can go across the organization, across levels, across, like diverse group of people, and just start connecting with them one-on-one and keep those relationships going, that will help you get into leadership roles, because then you're going to be in people's minds across the organization. And so when an opportunity comes up that you may not even hear about, they might put your name forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've always found that personal relationships are what have always accelerated my career.
Yes.
Or even now as self-employed, it's the relationships and the friendships and people that I have met. Now you and I are connected, so I'm thinking, because I deal so much with people's image and teaching them how to present themselves. I can do that outer work. You can do the inner work. Right. Yeah. And so now that we've met each other, it's a personal relationship. Now we can exchange, hey, hey, I know who you can go to Rochelle. And then you can say, you may need help with your new business look, go to Colleen, so that I think that personal relationships are the most important thing in life, and in business is, they call it networking. I call it building new friendships.
Yeah, that's the same. I'm an introvert at heart. And so networking scares the life out of me. And the last thing I want to be doing is, schmoozing at a cocktail party.
Oh, yeah.
And so I refuse to call this networking, but that it is what it is. It's, right. It's building relationships though. And as an introvert, that sings to me, and I enjoy connecting with people one-on-one. And so it's one of the ways I teach. There's different ways definitely for extroverts and introverts, and you find the way that works well for you, but whatever way it is, be strategic about it.
Absolutely. Well, y'all need to get in touch with Rochelle, and I have all of her contact information, including the link to her complimentary course on confidence, which I want everybody to take advantage of because we can all use that. All of those links will be in the show notes, so make sure that you check those. And then VIPs, of course, we're going to end this portion of the interview, and we're going to continue another portion of the interview for our VIPs. So if you're not a member of the Cafe Club and you want to be a Cappuccino member and continue to get more information from Rochelle and all of our other guests, because we do this with every guest, we record an extra few minutes of the interview. Make sure you check the show notes and get more information about the Cafe Club as well. So thank you again so much for getting up early and having a cup of coffee and being with us all the way from Australia. And I just love the Australian accent, so that always helps. There's something so warm and friendly, you know? So I appreciate you being here, Rochelle. Thanks so much for being our guest.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Fantastic. So all right. Take care and we'll see you next time. Bye now. Isn't she amazing? I thought she just had so many valuable things to share. Loved her accent, of course. And her free course on confidence is really something that you should take a look at. Like I said, you know, all of us can always benefit from getting a little bit more confident, shall we say. So anyway, yeah, I've got a couple more interviews coming up, I think, next week. I hope. Last week we had Dagmar, and of course, I was living in the 1800s last week, hauling water and breaking up furniture to burn in the wood-burning stove. So we didn't get a chance to hear her. But then we've got Rosie coming up. I think Rosie is next week. And she's the one that escaped the Middle East with her daughter from an abusive marriage. So real good information. I adored her. It's just so fun to do this and meet new people and make new friendships. And like I said, it's like, hey, I'll work on the outside, but go see Rochelle. She can help you with those business skills that you need and those leadership skills. Because she was a stay-at-home mom for 12 years. So a lot of people can relate to that. So anyway, what did you think of her? I hope you got picked up a couple of points. And I noticed in the show notes that the link wasn't there for her free program, so I'm going to go back into the show notes, and for some reason it didn't hyperlink like it was supposed to. So I put it in the comments, but after we go off the air, I will go ahead and go back to that. Excuse me. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate you watching it. But okay, so what I wanted to finish what I started talking about. I didn't want to leave Rochelle hanging there. But as far as our electrical bill being $1,000 last week, and we pretty much didn't have anything on. Yeah, I thought she did, Fiona. I thought she provided a lot of real good, solid stuff. Was it Kelly next week or Rosie? I forget. Anyway, so we've got another interview. And then I think what I'm going to do is like every other week, maybe I'll do like a presentation for the podcast and then maybe do an interview. I haven't decided what I want to do as far as that's concerned. But I really do like getting other people's input and hearing their stories and meeting new people and making new friendships and that type of thing. And I'm doing an interview with a woman in a couple of hours. I'm interviewing her for the podcast, and she teaches people how to become a millionaire. And she's done it multiple times. She just teaches people. She has a whole program, and there's a freebie that she gives away on her website and teaches people how to, you know, if that's something you're interested in, making that money. It'll help with my job interview in half an hour. I didn't know you had a job interview coming up. That's great. Should have told me. Why don't you text me these things? So anyway, so yeah, I think it's been fun. So send me feedback. Let me know, you know, what kind of topics you'd like to hear about, people you'd like me to interview. I've got some costume designers coming up that we've got scheduled for some interviews, and I'm excited about that. But yeah, let me know what you want to hear. I interview people that I'm interested in, and I find that they have interesting stories or they have interesting things to say, and maybe other people don't find it as interview. Okay, Mom. That's right. Told you before. Told you once. I've told you 1,000 times. You can tell me these things. So anyway, back to the electricity problem. So what happened was we have the Public Utility Commission of Texas, PUCT. And PUCT is a politically appointed board of people who, and ERCOT, you know, it's got the whole ERCOT thing too, but PUCT decided, oh, wow, look at this. We have a shortage. So the whole idea of the electrical thing, commission, whatever, words are failing me at the moment because I'm so upset, is supply and demand. The market dictates the price. It's called capitalism, right? This time, not my fault. Came out of left field. Okay, good. So it's the law of supply and demand, and the market determines the price. So, and it's always been that way. But this politically appointed board of people decided to set the price at $9 a kilowatt hour. Now, we're normally a couple of cents a kilowatt hour. On average, on a monthly basis, on average, I pay about 8.4 cents a kilowatt hour. But I buy it wholesale. So I'm on a wholesale plan. So for the past few days, well, I'll get into that in a second. So in the middle of the day when the supply is high, like say it's in the middle of the summer, the demand is high for electricity because people have their air conditioners on and it's in the middle of summer. So in the middle of the day when it's hot, you're using more electricity, so the price is higher. So it's supply and demand, right? The supply is less, so the price is higher. So because more people are using it, and you can only produce a certain amount. And here in Texas, we have wind turbines, we have natural sources, we have, so there's a variety of things that we use. So what happened was PUCT decided, oh, this is horrible. We are going to dictate that the price is now $9 a kilowatt hour instead of 9 cents. So a bit of an increase. So when you're using 100 kilowatt hours a day, your bill goes from $9 a day to $900 a day. So it's a bit of a hit. And they did this before we knew what was going on. I actually got multiple emails from our wholesale electrical provider, Griddy, who I'm sure you've seen in the news. They're not the only ones that sell electricity wholesale. There's a lot of plans. You can get on TXU, you can get on Pulse, Encore. There's all these different electrical companies. So what happened is a lot of those smaller electrical companies went out of business. And now they have been absorbed by TXU, the big electrical company. So that was a problem. So anyway, Griddy, our electrical provider, emailed us and said, the prices are going to be, they've got this big storm coming. The Biden administration, because of their green energy plan, Washington, D.C. has denied Governor Abbott's request to produce more energy, which means the supply is going to be low. The price is going to go really, really high. We recommend you switch away from us. Leave us. Switch to another electrical provider and get in a fixed plan because we don't know what's going to happen. So I tried to switch. And I called like 14 different electrical companies. They wouldn't take us because they also knew that the supply and demand issue was going to be a problem. And I'm trying to get over to them. They're like, no, we can bring you in on a wholesale plan. I'm like, I'm leaving a wholesale plan temporarily because I know the price is going to go up. They refuse to allow us. Oh, well, we'll sign you up, but we can't activate your account for another month. I'm like, no, I want to come over now. So I contacted Griddy and I said, I'm trying to change. I've called all these different companies. No one will let me change for another month. So they figured out what's going on. And then PUCT came in and set the price at $9 a kilowatt hour. And our prices skyrocketed. So we shut everything off. I figured it's cheaper to replace all the food in my refrigerator than it is to run the refrigerator. It's cheaper to sit here. And so the temperature in here got down into the 40s in the office. But we had running water. But no, if you want hot water, you had to use $9 a kilowatt hour to heat the hot water tank if you wanted to take a shower. So you couldn't take a shower. So I'm like, I'm sitting here freezing. And I'd rather be at the ranch in which at that point the water main had already broken. I'd rather be there hauling buckets of water, but at least be able to sit in front of the wood-burning stove. So my son volunteered to stay here at the office to make sure the water lines didn't break here, to make sure that all the faucets were dripping, to run the heat if necessary, to make sure. And so he just sat in this place for a week, freezing his patoot off. He had cans of soup, and I can monitor on my app how much kilowatt hours we're using at that particular time of day and whatnot, and what the price is, but it was capped at $9 kilowatt hour. So we figured, I said, you know what? You paid $2.75 for the can of soup. You ran the microwave for a minute. It cost $3 to run the microwave for a minute and a half when you heat the soup. And he said, $3 for the soups, $3 to run the microwave. I might as well run to fast food. Well, guess what? Fast food places, water lines broke, the water mains broke, the electricity, they were also on rolling blackouts. The only ones that weren't on rolling blackouts were the police station, the fire station, the hospitals. So it's really hard. I mean, I was at the store yesterday. Again, the shelves are empty. We still have not recuperated and recovered. Walmart was closed because of the rolling blackouts. But we had like the local Tom Thumb, it's called Lowe's. It's not a hardware store. It's a grocery store that's here in town, very small, family operated. But it's a small chain. They were open. The Tom Thumb, they had cases of water. They handed out cases of water. The HEB here in town, during the rolling blackouts, when you were in the store, if they lost power, they just let you leave with your food. Like, go home and feed your families. Like I said, the local guy who has a firewood business, he said, come get wood. I mean, he wasn't letting people coming up and take 2 ricks of wood away, 2 cords of wood or anything. But he would kind of ration it out. Like, hey, just be reasonable and take what you need for the next couple of days just to keep your family warm so that y'all don't freeze. But everybody needs some, So it was heartwarming to see neighbors. We had people knocking on doors, making sure you're okay, checking on the elderly, people bringing the elderly into their homes to take care of them because they knew, they were sitting in their home freezing and weren't taking care of themselves. So they just went and got them and brought them to their houses. When some people got water or maybe their water lines didn't break or whatever, they said, hey, bring those gallon containers over to my house, fill up, get some drinking water. Y'all need drinking water. And so one of the neighbors just had people coming into her home, filling up their gallon water jugs so that they would have water to drink. It was so heartwarming to see how people responded in the crisis. I have some, come and get it. And giving things away, not just the neighbors, but local businesses. So anyway, back to the electrical situation. I don't know if Fiona's still here, but our electrical provider is actually probably, or somebody, I'm not sure who, is probably going to file a class action lawsuit against PUCT, this politically appointed board who randomly decided to set the price at $9 a kilowatt hour. So here's what happens. I'm on a wholesale plan. So I pay the current wholesale rate, which, right now, for example, let me just go ahead and look and see what it is right now. They have an app. Okay, well, this is a good example. I don't know if you can see this or not. Let me see. It's negative. You see that? It's -0, but it's going to drop below that in just a second. So for the past almost the weekend, the wholesale price of electricity has been like a -4 cents a kilowatt hour. So when the turbines became unfrozen and a lot of the equipment was repaired, our grid produced too much energy. Now, this is the same thing with the East grid and the West grid. It's not just the Texas grid. The grid produced too much energy. If you have too much energy, you risk transformers blowing and all this other technical stuff that I don't know much about. So they pay you, they have an excess of energy, so they pay you to use the energy. It's cheaper for them to pay you to use the energy than it is for them to try to bleed it off. So right now, last week, I'm paying $9 a kilowatt hour. As soon as PUCT dropped their mandatory $9 an hour on Friday, the price of electricity fell below because the state was overproducing. So it's a huge political problem. It's not, and it goes back to the generators. So follow the money. Anyway, it should be interesting to see what happens and how it plays out in the news. But, oh, you are? Okay, good. But it should be, you and I will talk about this, I know, Fiona, but it should be interesting to see how this all plays out. And I mean, it just sapped my bank account dry, and I had just made a couple of major investments for the business, and when you expect a $50 a month electrical bill, $50 a month, and suddenly $1,000 hits your bank account, because what happens is I pay on a usage basis. So I keep $50, or I keep like $75 in my electrical account. And once a month, so every couple of days, I think it's like every other day or something like that, my electrical company will go in and say, okay, this is what you used 2 days ago, and then take out that 30 cents or take out that, whatever. And then once a month I pay a $10 or $9, something like that, membership fee. So I keep enough in that slush fund that I know is enough for at least a month and a half. So suddenly the price skyrockets, and I'm getting notifications from my bank, you're bouncing checks. I'm like, how could I bounce checks? I got like a couple $1,000s in that account. So not anymore, because $9 a kilowatt hour chews up a lot of cash. So we shall see. We shall see. But there's no way that we should have to pay that amount of money, because it wasn't the market price. It was a mandatory price set by political appointees. Doesn't make me happy. So anyway, alrighty. So that's it for today. Again, let me know what kind of things that you are interested in hearing on the show, people you'd like to see interview, or just kind of topics, what kind of topic ideas that you would like to see. I thought this one was really good because Rochelle is so good about saying, like, didn't you just love, she had so many little gems about one of our top skills as moms is negotiation skills. And it's so true. And if you can take those and refine them and use them in the workplace, it's a real good thing. So anyway, Her Leadership Way is Rochelle's website, and make sure that you take advantage of her free course that she's offering to our viewers for free on growing in confidence. Alrighty. Thanks so much for being here. Make sure that you go to ColleenHammond.com/club to learn more information about the VIPs. And if you are a Cappuccino VIP, Rochelle did an extended, we did another 15 minutes on specific skill sets. And that is inside your membership area. So make sure you go take advantage of that. All right. I'm going to head on out of here as soon as I can find my animation. There it is. Take care. God bless. And we will see you next time. Bye.